Programming's tough.
Thanks for tuning in at Brackeys.
Hello everyone and welcome to this video on making a multiplayer FPS in Unity. Today we're going to be creating a server browser that will list all of the currently available rooms along with the name of the room and the amount of players currently in that game. So that's going to be really fun. Also, thank you so much for helping us reach level 1 on the Patreon page. The first goal has been met, and that means that I can now guarantee 2 videos every single week that I'm going to be uploading, at least for now, Sundays and Wednesdays. And of course, this schedule might change in the future, but 2 videos a week should be it. So that's going to be really, really exciting. Also, if you want to get over there, the Patreon page is of course very much still running, and I hope to get a lot further. The next goal is live streams where we can do some exciting Q&A stuff. I can help you out with your games and answer questions, and also we can do some live development. That would be really fun. Also in that goal is maybe a game math series, so kind of math essentials for game developers. That's another thing I really want to create. So if you want to see those things, head on over to the Patreon page, and yeah, without further ado, let's get started. So you can see I'm here in Unity, and basically what we did in the last video was we set up this host game UI. And what we can do now is simply duplicate this object, and then we'll rename this to join game, and we can take this join game object and simply move it over by clicking and dragging and holding down shift to only move it in one axis. And we can now open this up and go and rename this to join game title, and then change the text as well. So this is going to be join game, and we can remove the input field here, but we can also reuse the create room button. So this is now going to be our refresh button, and it's simply of course going to refresh our server list. And we can maybe disable our on-click event for now and change the preferred height to something like 40 just to make it a bit less in your face. And then we can change the text itself here to say refresh. Perfect. And in between the join game title and the button is where I want a scroll view that will contain all of the different room list items. So let's right click on the join game here, go into UI and then scroll view, and we can now drag this out and drag it back in to position it correctly, and we want it to be there under the join game title. And then we can go in here and add a component, and this is going to be a layout element, and we want to go under preferred height and set this to something like 400. And the great thing about a preferred height is that it's going to try and remain at 400 no matter what we do, unless it runs out of space, and then it will shrink itself to fit. So that's a really great way to think about these preferred values, instead of just setting a minimum, in which case it will just go without the confines of the screen and look super weird. So it will just get cut off. Cool. So inside of this scroll view, we are of course going to have a bunch of different server list item objects sitting there, and we want the scroll view to take care of stuff like fitting everything in here and allowing us to scroll down if we need to for us. So that's going to do all of that. But scroll views can be a bit funky and a bit confusing at times, so I'll try and explain this carefully. So we have a scroll view itself here, and this is going to be our server list, or maybe we should call it our room list, and then scroll view. And under the scroll view, we basically have 3 different things. We have 2 scroll bars, a horizontal and a vertical, and a viewport, which contains all of our stuff. So this contains our actual content. And the content object is all of the things that we want to display within our scroll view. And we basically want to parent all of our list items to this content object. And what I want to do is I want to have this content object resize itself to fit the size of all of our list items combined. And we'll do that in just a second. But first, what we can do is we can disable our horizontal scrolling on the scroll rect component. And that means we can also simply remove our horizontal scroll bar. And that just cleans up this scroll view just a bit. Then what we can do is we can find our content object and we can add a new component to this called a vertical layout group. I'm really a big fan of vertical layout groups, as you can see. And that means that we can just right click our content, go under UI and make a new button, and then maybe just drag this out and drag it back in. And you can see that our button has now been positioned automatically. However, I don't want this button to just scale up to be some kind of huge size. I want this to have a fixed size, and I want our content to scale to that size. So what I'll do is go under button, add component, layout element, choose a preferred height of, let's say, 30 is good, I think. And we'll also go under the content and disable child force expand on the height. So that now has fixed that problem. However, our content is not yet resized. So all we need to do here is add a component called content size fitter. And that will, if we choose vertical fit preferred size, scale it to the preferred size of our elements that are parented to this content object. So if I duplicate this button to make another one, you can see that our content now resizes to fit that button as well. And I can go ahead and do this a bunch of times. And you can see that we now get this nice scroll bar feature enabled. And if I hit play here, everything will resize to look nice. However, this scroll bar sometimes can act a bit funky. And all we need to do now is go ahead and find our vertical scroll bar, and you can see it's, for some reason, it's set our height to 0. So we'll just bump up our height here, and then we can take this object and we can move it to the top, and then we can drag it all the way down to size it there, and then we want it to scale with the height here. So I'm going to select scaling on the height. This is the one here. So now we should be able to hit play, and you can see that I can now drag down here to see all of the different buttons, and I can also drag on the object itself. And I'm just going to go ahead and get rid of this network manager HUD there. So just disable the runtime GUI for now. So you can see that now that just works now, and it's even even has this nice elasticity to it. It's kind of nice to use. Great. So let's delete some of these buttons here and just focus on the first one. And I'm going to rename this to our room list item. This is going to be a single room item. And it's going to have the name of our room, the amount of players in that room, and some kind of way of telling the player to click it if he wants to join it. So the first thing that I want to do is kind of center our text to the left here, and then just bring it out just a tad from the side. And this is going to be the room name. And then it's going to say like this, maybe 2 out of 6, and that's going to be, of course, the amount of players. You can have that as a separate text object. I'm just going to have it in 1. And then I'm going to rename, let's just keep that as text, that's fine. And then we can duplicate this text object, and we can call this one the click to join text. And all I want to do here is simply move it over to something like here. And then I want to have this snap to the right. There we go. And move it out just a bit. And this is the click. And I'm going to put this in parentheses actually. Click to join. And we want to make this a lot smaller, something like maybe 12. And I want to make this italic as well. So that looks pretty nice. Then it shows that on all of the buttons so that the player is sure that he just needs to click the thing to get in there. So that's great. And we can now take this here and turn it into a prefab by dragging it into our project panel. I'm just going to drag it out here as long as I'm working with it, and then we'll sort it into the prefabs folder later. Good, so that was actually the essential UI we need. Except one small thing, and that is something that is kind of optional, but that I would really like to have. So we can now delete this room list item, and that is some kind of status text object that shows us, well, we are currently loading all of this stuff, or we are currently joining a game, whatever. So when we're not displaying all of the servers that the user can choose, I want to have some kind of feedback for the user showing what is currently going on. So to do this, what I want to do is go under our actually, let's just do this from without the scroll view, or maybe we can put it inside of the scroll view, but not inside of the content. So just something like here, and we can put a UI object here, and it's just going to be a plain text object. And I want to snap this to the left corner here, upper left corner, and have it sit somewhere around here with a font size of 16, a color of completely white, and this is going to say maybe loading ... or something like that. So that's really easy to use, and I'm just going to remove the text here so it's nothing by default unless something is happening, and this is going to be our status text. So that's perfect, and now we can go ahead and hook some of these up to a script. So the first thing that I kind of want to do is have a join game, a central script for joining a single game. And we could have this sit on the network manager, but we are not going to need the join game script in other scenes. And that's why I thought that I would maybe just have it sit either on the join game UI object or maybe on a separate object in the hierarchy. So let's go ahead and create an empty here and reset the transform on this, and we can go ahead and call this one, let's just call this one join game, and it's going to have a script that as well says join game. So that all looks fine and dandy, and what we can then do is maybe open up this script in Visual Studio. And this is going to be a fairly long one. I can see by the timing that I might have to split this video up into two. But we'll just go ahead and get started with this anyway. So we are here in Visual Studio, all right. And first off, we're going to be needing a bunch of namespaces. We're going to be using Unity Engine, of course, and then Unity Engine.ui because we want to be messing around with some text objects. Then we want to use system.collections.generic because we're going to be using generic lists. Then we want to be using Unity Engine.networking. We are going to be using some networking functions. And then finally, Unity Engine.networking.match because we are going to be using match info, or match description is what it's called, to be more specific. So that's perfect. And what we want to do is first of all set up some kind of reference to our network manager. So this is just going to be a private network manager called network manager. And we're going to set this in the start method where we're going to say network manager equals network manager.singleton. And then we want to check if network manager.matchmaker is equal to null. Well, then we want to say network manager dot is it create match or it's start matchmaker. So start matchmaker. There we go. Just so to make sure that the matchmaker is actually set up before using it. So we did this in the host game script as well right here. So you can just duplicate that code if you want to. Then next up, we are going to well, the very first thing that we want to do is basically just refresh our list. And this is also the very central function that we're going to have is some kind of refresh room list. Or you could simply just call it refresh, whatever you want to do here. I'm going to call this refresh room list just to be as specific when naming my method as possible. And of course, we need a list of rooms to refresh. So I'm going to have a list here, and it's going to store a series of game objects. You could also make these transforms, but I'm just going to do game object. And this is going to be a room list. And it's going to be equal to a new list of game objects. There we go. Okay, and that's the first thing that we want to create here. And we're going to have more variables, but we'll do those in a second. And we're going to have a public void, and we want this to be public, called refresh room list. We want this to be public because we want to call it from a UI button. So that's therefore we need it to be public because when we drag it into the onClick event, we need to be able to see it. Good. So the actual refreshing here is actually fairly simple. We are going to go to our network manager. So find our network manager here, go under the matchmaker, and then we want to list some matches. And this takes in a series of arguments. We are going to have the start page number, and this is if you have multiple pages. I'm just going to say 0. Then we want the page size, and in our case this is going to be 20, so we'll just list the first 20 elements, and then we'll have a match name filter. This is for searching, we don't want to do that. And then we want a callback method, and this is a method that will be called as soon as it's found a list of matches, and we are going to make one called onMatchList. We're going to make this ourselves, and then we want our status text. So we need a reference to our status object. So we'll go up here and we'll make a public, actually let's make this a serialized field. So a serialized field private text object, and we'll call this one our status. And we'll go down here and we'll say status.text equals, and we are now loading some elements in here. And then in the onMatchList, we can set this back to nothing, because then we have indeed succeeded in loading these and are now displaying them. So we'll create a void, and I actually believe this has to be public. So onMatchList, and this is going to take in a list match response, and we're going to call this the match list. And what can we do with this? Well, first off, we want to set status.text equal to nothing. And then we want to say if match list is equal to null, well, then we haven't found any matches whatsoever. It's not that only that we haven't found any matches, it's that we weren't successful in retrieving a match list. And then there's definitely something wrong here. So maybe we should, in that case, set our status text to couldn't get matches, something like that, or couldn't get room list, something like that would be fine. And then we can go ahead and simply return, because then we basically can't do anything. So this is only this is probably only going to happen when you have some kind of connectivity issue, and then it's something that the user should resolve. So next up, we're going to clear all of the rooms that are currently in our list. So we want to call some kind of clear room list method. And let's just go down and make this right away. And this can be private. So we're going to make a clear room list. And it's not going to take in any arguments whatsoever. And what we want to do here is loop through all of the elements in our room list. So for int I is less than room list dot count. And then we want to, of course, destroy that object. So we want to destroy room list I, and that's already a game object, so we don't need to do anything here. So we'll just remove that object from our we'll have all of the objects sit under your content, and in our case, we'll just remove that object right away. And then we want to clear our list. So then we can go room list dot clear, because just because we remove the object that is referenced in that list doesn't mean that the reference is removed from the list. We need to do that separately, and we do that by calling this function here. So just remember to do that. Great, so now that we've looped through all of that and removed all of the elements, we can go ahead and now add in some new ones. And in this case, we are going to loop through this match list response. And what is the match list respond? Well, it's a JSON response for a list match request, and that means that it's basically just pure data containing stuff like the name of the matches, how many matches, and all of that stuff. So it's just a list of pure data that we can convert into something that we can use inside of C#. And in our case, we're going to convert some of this stuff into actual objects. And I'm going to show you how to do that. So basically what we'll do here is we'll say for each match description, because this match list actually just has a series of match descriptions, just single match info objects. And we're going to call each of these match in match list dot matches. There we go. And then we can say So for each match that we found, we can go ahead and make a new object. So we'll make a game object here, and we'll call this the room list item game object, and set that equal to a new object that we will instantiate here. And in order to do that, we need a prefab to instantiate. So what do we want to instantiate? Well, we want to have up here another serialized field, and this is going to be a private game object, and this is going to be called the room list item prefab. And there we go. So that's what we want to instantiate here. And we don't need to set any position because we'll have our content or our scroll view set that for us. So that's fine. And all we want to do is simply parent it to that scroll view. So we'll have to have a reference to the scroll view itself. So we'll have a serialized field here, and that's going to be a private transform. And this is going to be called maybe room list parent. And all we want to do down here is, now that we've created this list item, we want to parent it to our room list parent. So we'll simply go room list item go.transform.set parent to our room list parent. There we go. And next up, I think we'll just skip this next step just for now, I think, because what we want to do here is now have a component sit on the game object that will take care of setting up the name / amount of users, as well as setting up a callback function, hang in here, that will join the game. Okay, so basically what this means is we need to have some kind of way of setting the name equal to the match name, setting the amount of users that are in the room, and we also need a way to know that if we press that button, it's going to join the correct room. So we need a way of knowing what room to connect to when a button is pressed. And we do that using a callback function, and we'll create all of that in a second. So the video got kind of long and I had to split it up into 2 parts. We covered a bunch of stuff in the second one, so click the screen now to be taken there as soon as it's ready, and I'll see you there. So I'm gonna start mentioning Patreon supporters the following month after they donate, so that there won't be any difference from donating at the beginning of the month to the end of the month. This way everyone will get a full month of mentions, and yeah, everyone will be happy. So just wait for the next month and you will see your name here. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you soon.